Hey there, I'm Smokemaster D coming at you with another episode of Barbecue Buyer's Guide, this time on smokers and grills that can make use of pellets, whole wood, or charcoal. The title, Triple Fire Grills, is a not so subtle hint at the inspiration for this episode, Lone Star Grill's El Fuego Trio, which basically translates to Triple Fire. Now, while El Fuego Trio has some unique design features, anytime I see a new grill or smoker design, I immediately think about what the nearest thing to it is. And that's how this episode came about. And you'll have to decide which of these options is best, or best for you, with the help of the information I present. Now, here I have some chapter times for you. Please remember to like this video and to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. And now, first off, I have a map of the builders of these pits, excluding Pit Boss, who builds and ships from overseas. I generally do this just so you have an idea of how far, the shipping would be to get the grill, because that plays into part of the cost. Interestingly enough, there is an extreme concentration of Three Fire Grills building in the Houston area of Texas. Not in Central Texas, not in Dallas area, only Houston. Closest to the city center, we have the oldest company, Pits and Spits. Second furthest out, we have the second oldest of these companies, Gator Pit of Texas. And lastly, the newest and furthest out is Lone Star Grills in Conroe. And lastly, all the way over in Knoxville, Tennessee, we have one final contender, TMG Pits. And now let's see that one low-cost option, which for most people isn't even really that low cost, but for these options it is. Here is the Pit Boss Charcoal and Pellet Combo Grill for $799.99. Like all Pit Boss grills sold now, it has a Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connection for its PID controller, which may actually be its best quality in comparison to some of its competition. Now for some of those features. Each of the two separate chambers has the exact same bottom and top porcelain covered grates. The pellet grill side is like so many of Pit Boss's pellet grills, with the flame broiled door. You can pull aside so that it's directly getting that heat and flame up to your meat, bumping those temperatures way up if that's what you want for searing. You have that knob that will do that. There's a fold down front shelf as well. For the separate grill side, there is a windmill style intake damper and a swivel away fuel door. I know that including this grill is a little bit of a stretch because very few people, if any, will ever make a wood fire on the right-hand side of the grill, but there it is. And now, a very quick RIP section for the first grill that I'm aware of that ever started this combination style. And this is it. This is a slide from my previous episode on hybrid fuel grills and smokers featuring the Cletus from Brocmar Smokehouse. I have tried Brocmar Smokehouse's website and tried calling their phone, and I'm afraid that they may have gone out of business. If so, rest in peace, Cletus. Now, for the high cost options you're really probably here to see. We'll start with the cheapest, which is the Texas Premier 2 Hybrid 24x36 grill with the added firebox. You can get this without the firebox, but then it wouldn't qualify for this episode. So the price we will be using is $4,270 with the firebox added on for $275. Now, I decided to do upgrades first because I want to make it abundantly clear that the pit you see pictured here is not $4,270. This picture, in fact, appears to have almost every single upgrade in the a la carte method of custom pit building that Gator Pit does. The only upgrade I don't see here is the Wi Fi connection that they don't give a price for. You have to call to see about that price, and that is pictured in the top right of the screen. And I also don't see the 2-inch brass ball valve for $69.99 that I imagine is being blocked by the 304 stainless front shelf for $225. Drop down is $99. I imagine those are two separate charges, but if I'm wrong, someone correct me in the comments. There's also stainless steel pull handles for $49.99, a temp gauge for $49.99 since it doesn't come included, and the counterweight is $295. Lastly, the birdhouse stack tops are $195. With all of these upgrades, this pit actually comes out to $5,339.92. And now for the other features. One of the main features is just how beefy this pit is. Like all the Gator pits, the body is quarter-inch steel, and other metal components, like the guides for the racks and the firebox, are made of thicker steel than many other builders use. Another feature is the double upper half racks that can be pulled out separately. The bottom rack is also pull out, and you can see the heat shield that you have placed over the pellet fed fire pot. And there beside it, you can see the tuning plates you would use for smoking with the offset firebox that would even out temperatures across the chamber if you set them up correctly. This is a form of bottom flow offset smoking that is somewhat fallen out of fashion with newer offset builders. The one thing about it, though, is that pellet grills generally have a bottom fire vertical orientation, so it might be appropriate here. The one other thing about it, though, is that there might be a separate grease pan or deflector that generally catches drippings and tilts to one side so that they drip away and exit out. And I think this pit may have one of those as well, but it's not pictured. And it would be difficult or impossible to go from having a grease shield to having tuning plates or vice versa while you're cooking. So I wonder how well switching between the fire forms would work on this pit. I'm sure it could be figured out, and maybe it wouldn't be even that big of a deal, but just something that struck in my mind. And now we have El Fuego Trio from Lone Star Grillz with a picture that is not entirely what you get for the base price, but it's a lot closer than the Gator pit. Its price is $4,695, and the only upgrade I think I see here is that pull bar on the left side. Now, when we open it up, we see a second level rack, a heat sensor poking up to guide the pellet controller and how to work the fire to get your desired temperature. The grease shield or indirect baffle covers the fire pot for indirect cooking. You can see that it's angled towards the center where the grease drain is for both sides of the grill. On the other side, you have the adjustable fire tray that you can pull up and down as you like. You can also see the standard 5-inch casters at the bottom. A further look inside shows us the indirect baffle with a slide door to allow for direct cooking from the fire pot. A direct sear baffle can be placed above it as well. There's also a wood split smoke basket to add some whole wood smoke to your cook while using the pellets. If you didn't know, the fire cup of the Lone Star Grill's pellet smoker is a more open cup that allows more smoldering and a rounder smoke flavor than many other pellet grills. But I still think the wood split basket is a good addition anyway. And here we have a couple more features. You can see the drain at the bottom, along with the removable fire cup for easy cleanup for the pellet fire pot. None of the other grills or pits in this episode have that feature. You get a really good look at the exhaust vent on the stainless steel top. And now let's talk upgrades. The stainless steel pull bar is $59.95. I think the pull bar should come standard, but that's just me. The folding stainless side shelf is $295. A second temp gauge, so you can see your temps on either side of the grill, is $95. The off-road package seen there is $895. 8-inch wheels instead of the 5-inch casters is $175. A fitted sunbrella cover is $495. And now for a few more upgrades. We have the fire management basket for $89.95, a plain charcoal basket for $35, laser cut stainless grates for $495, La Plancha costs $95 if you want to do some griddle work in there. Grate hooks on the back are $39.95 in case you want to store unused grates back there, and utensil hooks are $25. And now, the Pits and Spits Hybrid. These slides have mostly been recycled from the previous episode I did on hybrid and multi-fuel cookers, but I have updated the prices. The hybrid is now $5,174.99, up from $5,000. The completely stainless model is still $10,000. And here we see the roll-top stainless lid that only Pits and Spits makes. There's a second level grate. The stainless front shelf comes standard, imagine that, as well as the gas assist and the firebox for lighting your charcoal or logs. There's a steel plate in the top of the firebox you can use as a plancha, so if you want to do some griddle work there as well. Or you can take it out and there's an expanded metal grate that you can use for grilling on the top of the firebox. There's also a fire grate for you to build your fire on down in the box itself. In one picture on the website, it looks like the grate is pull out now. The circle in the door is actually a damper you open by spinning, which allows air in and stokes the fire. And here we see that if you want Wi-Fi, you can add the module for $174.99. The smoke cage is $149.99. They didn't have this one the last time I talked about this smoker. Now, when I did ask about people using this, the representative emailed back and said that though some people do it, a lot of other people just put a log over on the gas assist and let that add extra smoke while running the pellets, which might be a good idea. The modular grate system is $459.99, and you can use that if you want different grate options like a griddle to sub in. And lastly, the custom cover is what actually went up the most since I last talked about this pit, and it's now $399.99. And now, here we have the last pit for the show, the TMG Hybrid. Its base price is $4,999.99. Now, the base model comes with a plancha surface on top of the firebox. But since we actually need a grill, I think, in order to count this one for this episode, we have to add the hotbox, which I'll show you in a second on another slide. By the way, if you didn't know, their hybrid is basically the TMG Fridge 36 reverse flow smoker with a Pellet Pro hopper, just like the one Gator Pit of Texas uses, attached to the side, and with the fire pot coming up under the reverse flow plates. Now, this configuration costs $6,349.99 when you add the hotbox, which we will now. Now, this is what the hotbox looks like on the back of a fridge, which is what it will also look like on the back of the hybrid. Unfortunately, we don't have a picture of this on their website. The hotbox comes with 5 extra racks. Its heat and smoke comes up directly from the firebox through vents that you can turn there. Or you can remove the plate entirely and have all the heat come straight up into the hotbox, essentially allowing you to grill on the bottom grate, which was what we were after, a grilling option. Now, continuing with the features, in the bottom left, you get a clear look of what the base level casters look like. In the larger picture, you see the 3 standard pull-out racks, and a pull-up mechanism that allows you to open the doors, and the standard expanded metal fold-down front shelf. I think I saw that some people cover that shelf in butcher paper because the one downside of pull-out racks is that your food can still be dripping down while they're pulled out and make a huge mess. And here, lastly, I have a couple screen grabs from a video put out by Pellets and Pits YouTube channel, cited there at the bottom of the screen. TMG has very few pictures of their hybrid and no pictures for their ash dump feature that I could find. This episode, called New Method for Pulled Pork Butt, is worth a watch for its walkthrough of the pit. And if you're wondering what the new method is, it's smoking with whole wood at the start and then letting pellets finish up the cook, which I suppose is one of the ways people will want to use the pellet option while running their cooks with these kinds of pits and smokers. But as you can see, there's a pull-out door that opens a chute in the bottom of the firebox for ash to be cleaned out. And now we have some upgrades. The one upgrade I saw someone talking about in a video that they really wish they'd gotten was the insulated firebox. Now, it's almost an extra $1,000, but it's a really big pit with a lot of steel to warm up, and that insulated firebox could just be worth it for that. But it's also a lot of money, on top of a lot of money. The Tell True thermometer is $44.99. The fire management cradle is $199.99, and it slides out smoothly back and forth when you want to pull it out and add a stick. D-rings are $24.99 if you want to strap this thing down. Upgrading to a stainless steel front shelf is $299.99. If you want a shelf on the rear side that folds down and gives you more prep space, that's also $299.99. And now, at long last, we come to the charts. First, we have price. The Pit Boss's column looks awfully small over there compared to the others. They also put notes there that the minimal upgrades were added to the price so that these would qualify for the episode. For the TMG pits, I do feel like that hotbox is necessary for grilling, which is something all the rest of the pits have. So I added it before, and it's represented in this number here as well. And in fact, here on this chart, for how much space you have for charcoal or wood grilling, I put down the size of one of those grates in the hotbox for the TMG hybrid for its grilling space, which is 355 inches squared. Remember that there's 4 more of those up there in the hotbox as well, but this is just the grilling space. The Pit Boss grilling side is slightly larger at 380 inches squared. The grill in the Gator pits is a little larger still at 384 inches squared. The Pits and Spits 20 by 20 grate above the firebox is an even 400 square inches, and the half of the bottom rack on the charcoal side of El Fuego Trio is 440 inches squared, giving you the most grilling with charcoal or wood space. And now, let's look at space for smoking. The Pit Boss only has one side, the pellet side, which would be 615 inches squared. El Fuego Trio is, since it has the whole of its grate area open for smoking, gives you the full 1,408 inches squared. The Gator Pit Hybrid gives you 1,518 inches squared. The Pits and Spits has 1,650 inches squared, and the TMG Hybrid has 1,809 inches squared without the inches in the hotbox, which, if you counted those, would increase it a great deal more. And lastly, I have here the weight in pounds. The Pit Boss is the least, and of course has the thinnest metal. It's 192 pounds. El Fuego Trio comes next at 450, and the Pits and Spits Hybrid is next after that at 650. Having the stainless steel hoods has a little to do with that for both the Pits and Spits and the Lone Star Grillz. Stainless steel isn't as good as carbon steel at being a heat sink, but by this same token, it does reflect heat back better than carbon steel, which is why pit makers will sometimes use it for the hood, like these two have indeed. And since stainless steel is more effective, and since less is needed to have this reflective effect, you can have a thinner hood, which is easier to open. Now, the Gator pits and TMG Hybrid are all heavy quarter-inch carbon steel in the body, giving them rough estimates of 800 and 900 pounds of weight, respectively. And there you have it, all the evidence about these pits I could gather. So now I'll give you my thoughts on these pits. I don't think I would get the Pit Boss, even at its lower price. I would get a larger Pit Boss smoker than the size of smoking area in this one, and the cheapest charcoal grill I could find, and I think I would come out better overall than what this is. Now, the Pits and Spits I like. I like that there aren't a bunch of upgrades, and that they're giving you everything that's the best in the price. The log lighter, the stainless front shelf, all that. The grill and griddle above the firebox will be sufficient for most people's needs for grilling. The Gator pit is harder to judge because of the nature of the custom shop and a la carte model that they use. Since you can get pretty much whatever you want, you'll probably be happy with what you get. And if you're not, it will probably be your fault. The Gator pits are well built, but I think I'd give Pits and Spits a try first, personally. Now, the TMG pits is interesting, in part just because of how well reverse flow lends itself to adding a pellet hopper, which is actually something I don't think anybody else does in the reverse flow community. For most people, however, this space is just overkill. In the Pellets and Pits YouTube video I cited earlier, he put one pork butt in his pit, and he probably could have done, if he used the hotbox, maybe even 15 to 20 of them. And if you need that much space, that's one thing. But on the other side of things, it takes a lot of fuel to heat up that much metal, which probably makes the insulation somewhat worth it if you're going to do that on the firebox. But even still, that's a lot of pit and a lot of expense for a pit for your average backyard barbecuer. So in general, I would maybe take a pass on the TMG pits just for that reason. I think that it does everything that it does very well, and I do really like that hotbox add-on, but it's just so much. And lastly, we have El Fuego Trio, which is perhaps more appropriately sized for the backyard. Unlike the Gator pits, Pits and Spits, and TMG, there's no part of it that is offset to the main chamber. If you want to smoke true offset with wood, you might only be able to use half of the chamber and have your meat resting on the pellet side. Is that really a problem? Probably not. You can always try to make a fire under the raised fire tray and use that as something of a blocker and try to make the full chamber indirect, but the radiant heat coming off of it would still likely make it hotter on that side. If you use the pellet option more, then that would make it less of an issue with smoking. It would be interesting to see, though, how the heat distribution would play out in this chamber. The real question, I suppose, is whether the people who really love Lone Star Grill's pellet grills feel like they need to add a wood and charcoal option. This El Fuego Trio has about 130 square inches more space than their 20 by 42 pellet smoker, which isn't a whole lot more extra space, but it costs $1,700 more. With only about $400 more on top of that $1,700, you'd be able to buy the El Patron and then have two separate cookers. I do think, however, that some people will be drawn to El Fuego Trio as the one grill and smoker that will do everything. The ability to raise and lower a wood or charcoal fire with ease is something it has over all of these other options we've discussed. And while the other competitors have their points, I think that does make El Fuego Trio maybe the most versatile. The Wi-Fi connection coming standard through the Fireboard controller that it uses is also a big plus. So, those were my thoughts. I'm sure you have your own thoughts about these smokers, so if you have any reviews or comments, I and the rest of the community would love to hear them, so put those down below. And, as always, go get your smoke on, y'all.